This is my journey.
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 This is my journey with jazz. All right, little kiddies, we're going to start one more time. This is part 2 of New Orleans and early jazz, or shall I say early jazz and New Orleans. Well, either way you take it, it's the same thing, baby. Check it out. We're going to go to the hotbed of jazz, a place where we had the most activity. 36 blocks of businesses, entertainment, fun, and lots of music. And this place was first called the District. But then it was renamed or nicknamed Storyville because the guy on the city council who established it was named Mr. Story. So we're gonna talk about Storyville. This is where a lot of musicians not just grew up, but learned to play this music. And this is where the music developed. Sidney Bechet used to leave his home and come over here to learn to play. And Louis Armstrong was actually born and raised here. That's right. Storyville was happening, a lot of money was made, a lot of fun was had. I'll say everything. Opened up in 1890, closed in 1917 when it just got a little bit too rough. Now musicians played there mostly at night. During the daytime, a lot of them played for funerals and little parades and whatnot for the society group. And whenever the band would come through, there would always be a crowd following them, dancing and clapping their hands and having a good time. And that became a New Orleans tradition, especially in the black areas like Treme and Central City. Yeah, and this tradition for people following the band and jamming and having a good time, it became known as second line. You say second line, oh yeah, Storyville, you got it. Now we're gonna go to perhaps the most important person to come out of Storyville as far as jazz goes. His name was Louis Armstrong. He created most of the early jazz language for improvisation on his trumpet and his cornet. But he was also a great singer. Matter of fact, he was a singer on the street corners before he started playing professionally in the clubs. That's right. But he had some nicknames. One of them was Satchmo, or Satch, or Dippermouth, or Pops, or just plain old Louis. But we loved him because Louis Armstrong gave us the language for this great music. Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, Satch, Pops, Dippermouth, you got it. All right, let's have some fun.
The music from early jazz is really cool because it was new. It was exciting. Nothing like this had been played before. There were a lot of changes happening in the country and a lot of changes therefore happening in the music. So they weren't building off of what had really been happening. They were creating this brand new thing, and that's always exciting when you're an innovator of a style of music.
What I like about early jazz music, since I grew up in New Orleans, I'm very familiar with it because it's still played much the same way in a lot of places today there. Really, the music was really all about having a good time, and it's all about communicating that good time to everybody that's around. That's the thing I love about New Orleans music.
One of the main things that I like about it is that the role that the music played in society. Like back then, it was the popular music of the day, so you would get dressed up and you would go out and dance. It really incorporated all the different French elements and like some of my other brothers were saying, the Creole elements, African and salsa, and you brought it all together. And the role in society was that it was something to listen to and get up and dance to and feel good. It definitely has changed a lot, and really appreciated that about the New Orleans era jazz.
For me,
Early New Orleans jazz is really all about the energy. From the trumpet heralding, displaying the melody, to your clarinet or soprano saxophone, playing a counter melody, complementing that material, as well as the trombone that sort of helps everything culminate. It lets the swing happen, it lets the harmony grow, as well as the time.
My favorite part about early New Orleans jazz music is the extreme combination of all these different influences. You have people from Cuba going to New Orleans and vice versa. You have the classical musicians, the Creole musicians that were studying classical music. They're bringing that into jazz. You have the blues, for the Mississippi Delta blues coming to New Orleans. You have the church hymnals. That music is going into jazz. You have the African music from Congo Square. That music is going into jazz. It's what Wynton Marsalis calls the gumbo. You have this big gumbo and pot of people playing all these different kinds of music that couldn't happen anywhere else but in New Orleans. And that is what makes jazz special.
My favorite recording from this period, and I'm sure you've heard this name a lot, but it's Louis Armstrong, and specifically Bessie Smith singing St. Louis Blues, which was written by W.C. Handy. This song is great because it not only represents the blues form, you've probably heard about blues, but it incorporates other styles of music in that recording as well. Some old Creole type of rhythms, but also some tango rhythms from Argentina. So it really does show the influence from around the world that came into New Orleans and came right back out into Bessie Smith's voice and Louis Armstrong's horn.
There's a song that Joe Oliver did, and it's called The Snake Rag. Joe Oliver, you mentioned, he was wonderful, and he was a master at taking his sound and doing all sorts of things with it. And when you listen to it, it's almost like he's talking to you. So I think that's one of my favorites. I don't have a single favorite, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, like I said, I get into Jelly Roll a lot. His boogie woogie style definitely paved the way for a lot of artists that came after him and inspired a lot of different genres of music. Definitely rock and roll elements and more of the blues-based stuff. You know, Ray Charles. A lot of different genres were spun off of Jelly Roll's music.
Well, for me, that'd have to be some of Louis Armstrong's famous Hot 5 and Hot 7 band recordings, just because of the musical talent they displayed. And they used all of these instruments that we've talked about already so well. It really defines an era of music.
My favorite music from this period has to be the music of Jelly Roll Morton. He was an innovator in ways that you can't imagine. No one was formalizing jazz music in the way that he was. He was taking works of classical musicians and saying, we can write jazz music in this way, writing for 3 clarinets and piano, taking the music that came before him, ragtime, and changing it using these new influences that were coming in, like from Cuba, for example. And he was using the rhythms of Havana and including them in his ragtimes and his stomps. I gotta say, one of my favorite compositions from this time is the King Porter Stomp that he wrote for his friend Porter King.
My journey with jazz, yeah, baby.